And we have Pat Winczewski, who is a licensed psilocybin facilitator at Inner Guidance. We have Melanie Velez, who is a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner and a psychedelic-assisted therapist. And Melanie works at the Oregon Psychedelic Travel Clinic. And we have Erin Johnson, who is a licensed psilocybin facilitator and works with Inner Trek Service Center.
You going first?
And these wonderful people today are going to talk to us a little bit more about the how of being a psilocybin facilitator. Our first panel is a little more about the why and some of the details that come with that. So we're going to hear from each of them, and then we'll have a group discussion. And we're going to love to start with Melanie, please. Thanks.
Great.
Oh,
Well,
Patrick, you're going first. Okay.
yeah.
You want to stand at the podium, or you want to sit here?
We decided to remain seating.
Cool.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Pat Winczewski. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a licensed facilitator. I was born and raised in Oregon, and I live and work in Albany. That's about an hour drive south, and the service center that I work at is about 3 blocks away from the Willamette River. I facilitate through LifeTrek and have been conducting psilocybin sessions since June. To date, I've sat with about 43 administration sessions, and I'm excited to do many more. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be up here today and to share this space with so many esteemed individuals. I have a somewhat unconventional background. I have a degree in chemistry from Oregon State with a focus in medicine and nutrition. I worked for several years in food manufacturing, in laboratories, various quality assurance roles, regulatory and customer care. I also have spent a lot of time with the Boy Scouts and the American Red Cross. I'm a strong advocate for psilocybin. I helped convince the city of Albany to not ban psilocybin, as many cities and counties in Oregon have. I've also designed education material and held many outreach events within my local community. My first psilocybin experience was many years ago. I was naive, but it was a wonderful experience, profound, life-changing. It was spiritual in nature, and it left me with a powerful sense of unity and a connection to everything and everyone, and that experience rests with me today. I really enjoy sharing my passion and curiosity for mushrooms with others. It's very clear that the work that we're doing is incredibly effective and important, and I believe psilocybin will play such a pivotal role in developing our understanding of mental, physical, and spiritual health. I love mushrooms. I love hunting for chanterelles. I grow oysters in buckets at home. I love shiitake, lion's mane, and I believe that the avocation for medicinal, gourmet, and psychedelic mushrooms will have the necessary impact to dissolve some of the stigma and fear the general public has to mushrooms and talking about mental health. I love to engage with people in my local community who are curious and interested in mushrooms and interested in bettering themselves. I have focused my outreach on the LGBTQ community as well as the local veteran community. The city of Albany, Oregon has the largest Veterans Day parade this side of the Mississippi and a strong culture for supporting veterans. If you are a veteran with a positive psychedelic experience, I encourage you to come and share this with my local community because they need it. I live a happy life. I have an awesome job and a family that loves me. That is my home, and I bring this vibe to every session. I prefer to listen than speak, and being up here is terrifying. I have a natural curiosity about people and how our minds work, and I also have a light sense of humor and a generally cheerful attitude. I'm a strong believer in laughter, fun, and joy, and those being the best medicines, and I know the mushroom agrees with me. I bring some fun and unique tools to my integrations. I work with tarot cards. I just made a rune set at home, and I have a deep interest in parts work. And coming from a totally separate professional space, it was a really dramatic transition for me, and I'm really happy for the support from my team at LifeTrek and the Synaptic Institute for continuing to be supportive during my transition. I'm thankful and proud for Oregon voters and for all of you who have been tinkering with the plumbing, as Tom mentioned earlier. There are many people with empty cups out there, and I'm just happy to be a part of this and to help clear up some of the misconceptions in the community. And I'm doing my best to share education and just letting people know that we're here. My name is Pat. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Oh, you're a minute early. Did I get to steal your minute? Thank you for introducing me, Emma. I'm actually in the middle of a name change right now as part of the cultural bereavement work I've been doing for the last 2 years with psychedelics. So I'm going to introduce myself for the first time as Melanie King Kawashima Velez. My mother was born in a Japanese work camp, internment camp during the war. And that family was ripped away from its community and plopped into a new community when the war ended. There were no buses to go back home. You just made community where you were and moved forward. And I took a lot of lessons from that, and community is really everything to me. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm gonna beg your forgiveness right now. They're giving us only 5 minutes, and this is something that's gonna take me 60 minutes to do. So I'm gonna be totally unvarnished, I'm gonna be unpolished, I'm gonna be real blatant. There's a lot of responsibilities that we have in this space, and one of the other ways I identify is as a psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner. Shout out to any nurses in the room. Yeah. Any other medical prescribers with the 3 horrible letters DEA, license to protect? Yeah, it's a thing. And it's scary, and I don't feel like I have full license to speak freely about my background. I'll give you a little snapshot. I was born and raised in Eugene, Oregon, unceded lands of the Kalapuya. If you've ever been to Eugene or heard of the Oregon Country Fair, you know, like psychedelics is just in the air, in the water. I think I did a first facilitation session at age 15, not knowing that was what I was doing, and just letting me hold your hair while you're having a bad trip and tuck you in. And highly trained pillow manipulator, is that the phrase we use? And then, you know, later on in high school, your friends are like, oh, guess what? If you run over Ken Kesey's mailbox, you can get a tour of the Magic Bus. So that's what we do, right? It was just always around me, and I very much took it for granted how free that was, how much I just got to talk about it, got to see it in all its forms, good and bad. And I want to be a cheerleader for psychedelics, but I can't. I can't be that cheerleader today. I'm going to come with some themes about stories of some of the hard stuff that we're seeing, some of the hard things that I've had to go through, being really afraid and having to protect my license. Also want to come with some solutions that maybe we haven't thought about yet, and that I want to invite conversation and plant some sacred seeds to start to grow about maybe how, if you know the Opal lines for psychiatry and the new suicide hotline, tremendous funding that's going in, and how that dovetails so nicely with psychedelic supports, right? And how we start thinking creatively about the wonderful resources we do have and how we can come together to use those. That's what I'm doing in my community with a group, a handful of psychiatric prescribers who are there before and after difficult journeys supporting whole service centers. I think the responsibility of us is similar, as facilitators, is similar to the responsibility of nurses. We're the last line of defense for our clients, how we're going to help them choose a dose, how we're going to help them be safe, how we're going to do the impossible, which is share knowledge and data amongst each other so that we can dose people better, so that we can set up better, but also protect tremendously the phenomenal amount of privacy that's needed to do this work, especially for people who are government officials who come for this journey and know they have everything to lose. I agree with what the panel before me said and what Heidi said about we are setting the cultural norms, and I want to invite you to think about our ethical practices and processes and do radical transparency. That's my commitment to you all, and that's every website I'll be on, every bio I have to share. I want to show you exactly where I am and how I'm moving and who is my community and who is checking my shadow and who's checking my ego, and I invite you all to do that with me too. There's so much more that I want to say in 26 seconds. I think we're at tremendous risk. We're at tremendous risk of becoming siloed the way the medical environment has become siloed. We're so busy doing and giving journey and starting and growing and you know, building the plane as we're flying it, as everyone says, but really we need to build bridges and slow down just a little bit and really make some space and priority to talk to each other, service center to service center, facilitator to facilitator, consultation group to consultation group. A lot of the stories that I'm going to share today are because I consult with service centers. I consult with facilitators, mostly the BIPOC facilitators in my area. But I also do a lot of ketamine services, hundreds of ketamine journeys, trainings with CIS, Polaris, Temenos, MAPS. You can do all the training in the world, but if we don't talk to each other and we don't stay connected, we'll lose the thread. Thank you. I went over, sorry.
Hi everyone, it's my first time on stage, so if I drift off and look over there, please bear with me. I'll come back, I promise. Pinch me, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so my name's Erin Johnson. I use he, they pronouns. I acknowledge my great privilege of being up here as a cis-presenting, tall, white guy. I feel really humbled to be here. However, I have been holding space with Altered States for almost 10 years. My journey before those 10 years is significant, as a lot of people are saying in this panel. I resonate a lot with the things Tal was saying. And, my journey, I asked myself, what am I doing here? And my junior year of high school, I was at a kegger with lots of cowboy boots and testosterone and a bonfire. Someone gave me some mushrooms, and I woke up the next morning. I quit the football team. I told my parents, I'm not going to WSU. I'm going to Seattle University to study psychology. So it drastically changed my life. It was a pivotal moment. Thank you, Niño Santos. There's so many things to say, and I think, I want to repeat some of the things people have already said, but becoming a psilocybin facilitator is not a 6-month certificate you get, and then the mushroom fairy comes out with her wand and bops you on the head and you're a facilitator. That's not how it goes. It can, but if it does, I would maybe look in the mirror and ask yourself if you're really ready to be there. The ways I know to know what to do in the medicine is because I've experienced it myself in many, many different ways. That's really the only way to be confident, in my opinion, in the medicine, is to have a relationship with the medicine and to know it from the inside out. And if you don't know what someone's going through, how are you going to help them? So ask yourself that question very seriously. Being a guide is a constant, I think, a path of humility and curiosity. Really being curious. When you run up against something you don't know, or someone tells you, you screwed up, I didn't like that, thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for letting me know that I have this blind spot, because that's where you're going to get stuck, and that's where someone's going to get harmed, is that blind spot. So surround yourself with mentors and people who aren't afraid to tell you you're wrong. I didn't like the way you did that. Those are your allies. The people who are willing to tell you no, the people who are willing to hold you back and say, you're not ready. That's your best friend. My learning journey, started at John F. Kennedy University, where I took transpersonal counseling psychology. I was learning about transpersonal psychology at the same time attending the first psychedelic science conferences in 2010 in San Jose. Some of you may have been there. I was fortunate enough to have attended this meeting that happened afterward that ended up becoming the Guild of Guides. Some people know what that is. I think I was the only person in there under 60 years old, but that's okay. I was very fortunate to have been there. I went to many transformational festivals, held space for a lot of people on the dance floor and afterward, and I realized I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I sought out mentorship, and I found someone to do work with. I did 2.5 years of weekly therapy and journeys every 2 months for 2 years, 2.5 years almost, so roughly 15 journeys myself with time to integrate. I did a year-long training with 1 day per month over 12 months. We did trades with people in the cohort. We watched each other move through the process, like they were saying in the previous panel, watching other people, being connected with other people that are going through the process is tremendously important. So creating little work groups for yourself, seeking out supervision, really important. Then I was supervised for 2 years when I first started. When I first started, I did sessions with friends and family. I did sessions with people for no cost or low cost, so there's no power dynamic, because when you're giving someone money to hold space for you, there's an artificial, well, a real power dynamic created, and you're saying, I know how to do this. Well, guess what? You may not. So practice, practice, practice. There's so many more things to say, but yeah, I just encourage you to slow down. Slow down and look at yourself. Look in the mirror and say, gosh, do I really feel good about this? I think about the surgery metaphor, you know. Do I want to go and have someone do heart surgery on me who's never apprenticed? Or, you know, who's got the scalpel? Oh, they got a 6-month certificate? I don't think I want them doing surgery on my spirit. Anyway, yeah, my name's Erin again. Thank you so much for being here, and turn it back to Emma.
Thanks, Erin. Okay, let's chat for a little bit, shall we? My first question for you is, when you think about how you're seeing Measure 109 unfold, the sessions you've seen happen, stories you've heard from other folks, what are your biggest concerns? What are the biggest things that makes your nervous system kind of have that pause of wanting to slow down, wanting to look at things a little bit more, and questioning, you know, are we doing this right, and should things shift? And Melanie, I'd love to start with you.
Yeah. I want to call out that serving in a consultation group and being someone's medical prescriber is a sacred duty, so I don't want to betray any confidence. I'm going to speak in general themes about things, amalgamations of things that I've heard. When we have individuals coming, especially from out of state, but often psychedelically naive individuals coming for a journey, and they're paying big money, they want a guaranteed result. And to them, that means I want 50 milligrams. And that's what I'm paying you for. Take it or leave it. And there's not a lot of incentive that they see at the beginning to be honest and forthcoming about, well, my mom had bipolar 1, and, you know, I've had a lot of deep trauma, and my self-harm urges to peel all the skin off my forearm, whatever, you can fill in the blank, right? It takes a special skill from a facilitator to help them understand. We all use things for a reason. These medicines, quote unquote, even though my DEA license says I can't call it a medicine, these substances are perspective changers. And we have to take your whole picture into account, right? The more forthcoming and honest you can be with me about what's going on for you, the better I can help you choose a dose, right? And acknowledge and call out the monetary pressure that's there. Because when someone has frank psychosis and they're scared and they run out of town, or they have mania and they have to go to the ER, or the suicidal ideation flares up, or they're spending hours and hours and hours in a place that they would consider to be torture, all because they wanted the peak experience, right? I think we got to slow down and look at how we do prep and how we coordinate care afterward. There are people like me out there who will run right to your side and help you, but we don't have a way to connect yet.
Thanks, Melanie. I hear you naming a couple different things, and it sounds like you're talking a lot about prep, about relationship building, about understanding, about being able to dose someone or suggest a dose in a way that's aligned. And I hear you talking about the importance of attunement, of being able to really sit with someone and hold the part of them that wants the 50, the part of them that's paying big money to come be here and wants the God experience, and being able to validate that part while still attuning to the full picture of what your expertise and your clinical judgment is telling you. Maybe we need to slow down a little bit, and guiding someone in the direction that both of you can collaboratively say, this is a good idea. And so it sounds like there's a lot of space that needs to happen between you and the person in that preparatory time to create a safe container.
Yeah. I love being able to say to an elder, I want to honor you by going slowly and giving you all the time you need.
Yeah.
And that might mean I make less money per hour, and that's a decision we each have to make.
Yeah, thank you. Erin, I want to go to you next. What are your concerns?
I can definitely piggyback on that. Just managing expectations, I think. You know, the whole conversation of what's an expectation, juxtaposing that with an intention. We can have a good intention, you know, like the metaphor of we go down, we can get on the boat, we're going to go out in the ocean, we're going to look around, and we're going to come back. We're not going to Hawaii. You're not going to have a spiritual experience. Maybe you are, probably not. 1 out of 20. So managing expectations, that's a big thing. God bless Michael Pollan, and also, curse you. I have to talk people down off that ledge all the time. I want to pee diamonds. Me too. I make a lot of money. Okay. And I think one thing I think is really important is like Tal said, we're teaching people theory. We're giving people information. That's great. It's about experience. It's about being with the medicine. It's something you experience, and you can't learn that without experience. So what I would really like to see is some kind of supervision. You know, therapist has that, a doctor has that, everybody has that. We don't have that. We need that. We need to hold, we need to hold hands. We need to connect arms and create like a united front about what this is, because there's a lot of responsibility that goes with it, and it feels like it's being held irresponsibly, to be frank. So mentorship, you know, I'm singing to the choir. Supervision. Yeah, thank you.
I hear both of you naming the importance of slowing down and of really being connected to each other and the community around us in order to hold somebody well. And that piece, I know one of my teachers says very frequently, of that it's not just us and the medicine holding a client, but it's us and our community and our ancestry, and all of our supervisors and teachers that come before us are all in the room together. And if we're not aware of that and really connected to that, how can we be doing good work? Patrick, what do you think? What are you concerned about so far?
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback off of both of their comments, a lot of my job I've found is reducing people's expectations quite a bit, and this concept of dosage is so important. Clients are putting so much pressure on themselves to have this once-in-a-lifetime experience. They're traveling from across the country, spending a bunch of money, and there's this thought that more medicine equals more benefit, which is obviously not the case. But you kind of want to walk that line of giving them enough to have an experience without pushing them too far, because we don't want to disappoint people necessarily, but just kind of like being able to reduce those expectations and walk that line with dosing, because I find that that's what clients are really relying on facilitators for, is that knowledge about dosing, is that knowledge about the different products, how they interact with our gut, you know, different products, capsules, powder, if we take them in a tea or versus, there's all these like considerations about the products and how they affect us, and dosage is probably the biggest conversation that I have during preparation. It's what they really rely on us to know a lot about.
Yeah. So I'm curious for all of you to think about, like, when you're in prep sessions with someone, and, you know, let's say in the 109 model, there's a requirement of one prep session. That doesn't mean you have to do one. In my opinion, hopefully we're doing more. But this is a whole person with a whole life coming in, and you have maybe at best a few hours with them before you go into this really vulnerable state where there's a lot of unknown. For you in your practice, and I really want to know like how you do this, how do you balance the very little amount of information you're getting about somebody and their life with the unknown and the vulnerability and the suggestibility of the psilocybin space that you're going into? How do you hold that?
I'll go first again. I am privileged. I have a job that pays decently well, and I use that privilege to say no to clients. If you want to travel with me And I don't have a feeling that you've got the skill set, not just your breath as a tool, but some other coping stuff that we talk about. I'm going to ask you to do some more prep sessions, and I'm going to make it very low barrier and very cheap and very easy for you to do that to the extent I can. But I think calling out the pressure that's in the room is really essential. And then the other problem is, feeling like I have license to ask them, what is your safety and support container when you go home out of state, right? It's all well and good to be like, you should be community supported in Nebraska, right? What is that? So me feeling comfortable, like they talked about the nervous system, right? Me feeling comfortable here, but also in a pragmatic way. What's gonna hold you when you get home? And maybe don't book your flight for like the next morning out. Maybe not.
Melanie, I want to ask you a follow-up question to what you said. When you decide to say no to someone, or when you decide to say not yet, because I'm hearing you say there is a not yet and there is a no, and those are different things. How has that felt for you?
How does it feel in myself?
Yeah.
Like, oh God, I already booked that appointment, I'm not gonna be able to fill it, and now I have $75 or more of childcare that I'm just gonna eat. And there's a difference between ethics and morality is a decision that's made each time, and I have to not be in moral distress. That's the only way I can do this work, and I have to fall back on that.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Hard.
Yeah. Erin?
Sure, yeah. I think, how do I hold it? I think the thing that really pops into my mind is what I know is that I don't know. That humility piece. It's like, ideally, yes, we teach people to create a space of non-linear healing, right? We don't know exactly the stages that it's going to take. We don't know what's going to come first. Why should the process look like that? I would say having no set thing of, how many prep sessions, that's dependent on each person. Somebody could need a month of sessions, someone could need one session. And also just, I try to level the playing field right away with people and say, you know what, I'm not here to heal you. I am just a shepherd. I'm going to put you out in that pasture and I'm going to take care of you. And I try to level the playing field right away and manage expectations all the time and just say, we don't know what's going to happen in here, and I'm definitely not in control of what happens. I'm just here to keep you safe, So taking myself away from the expectations that they have of me and saying I'm just some guy who's going to sit here with you. I'll carry your bags. I'll follow you up the mountain. I've been there many times, but I'm not going to tell you where to go. So I try to take my ego out of it and say, you're in the lead. I'm going to carry your bags. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a follow-up question for you too. I hear you saying that there's an effort of taking yourself out of the guru, expert, therapist role that I think people often want to put us in. What happens in the relationship between you and the person you're working with when you step behind them and grab the bags? How does that shift the space between you if they are maybe coming in expecting you to show them the way up the mountain?
I think it's really empowering for people. That can be terrifying, for sure. I mean, we're coming and giving someone money to perform this healing on us, but it's really not like that. I think it changes the dynamic in a really profound way. I mean, we talk about the inner healer. When you put your confidence in someone and say, hey, you're going to lead here, and that can be, like I said, terrifying, but it can also be really empowering. And that's part of what this is empowering people to realize that they know themselves, that inside your heart you actually know what you need to heal. And the problem is your brain says, nah, because we got this programming from our society telling us what we need to be doing. But as the people in this room probably know more than maybe some people out there, those things aren't really congruent.
Yeah, thanks, Erin. Patrick, how about you?
It's interesting the different types of clients that come through and how they approach the preparation. I find that a lot of clients are right there, ready to just kind of spill out into exactly what they're wanting to get out of this experience, into their expectations. And it is a really sometimes challenging to hold that space for them and just be, non-reactive. But I take the curiosity approach and just ask. I have a large list of questions from all different areas, and just being curious about their story, being curious about what they're wanting, why psilocybin, why now, and not only to reduce the expectations, but also to just meet them where they are. And a lot of these preparation sessions, it's the first time that these clients have been asked, like, what was your religious experience when you were young? And so just really kind of holding that curiosity and utilizing whatever questionnaire, whatever tools you have at your disposal to really help kind of meet the client wherever they are, whether they know they're there or not.
Yeah. So a follow-up question for you is, I hear you saying like there is a meeting a person where they're at over and over and over again. As you're tracking that and as that shifts and changes during preparation, as a facilitator, what's your cue that you feel comfortable taking the next steps and saying, yes, let's do an administration session together? Like, how do you know inside your own system?
I think it's pretty clear when we're having the conversation, and I'm very clear at the very beginning to go forward with my privileges and who I am, and to make sure that they feel comfortable with me going forward, because I think that's the most important part. I don't have competing licenses, and so the non-directive approach is very easy for me. But just being upfront with who I am, so that way we can build that trust from the first moment, and then and to offer other facilitators and empower them to make their own choice whether I'm a good fit for them. I think is kind of my strategy, and encouraging them to, or empowering them to kind of make that choice based on how they feel with me, as opposed to the other way around.
Okay, so it sounds like a co-created space, and you're tuning into yourself, encouraging the
Yep.
client to tune into them, and coming to a space where you're both a full yes to move forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wonderful. So I want to take a little bit of a left turn here, this way. And so much of this work has a lot of seriousness to it, right? There's things we're concerned about. There's a lot of suffering that we sit with. I want to look at the other side of the spectrum too, and ask you all about joy and humor in this work. When you are sitting with people in preparation, when you're with someone in an administration session, when you're in integration, how do you hold joy and humor in this work, and how have you seen that be a piece of the medicine in the work with clients? And Erin, I would love for you to go first.
Sure. As a rule, I try to tell people in a prep session, also right before the session happens, hey, you know what? It's okay to have fun in there. Sometimes mushrooms will take you to this squishy, farty, giggly place, which I'm sure you all know. Some of you know better than others. It affects me in that way. Nobody wants to be around me the first 20 minutes. It can be fun, and just reminding people of that. Like, I have never experienced so much ecstasy and joy in there. It's remarkable, and I try to keep things funny and light and have some jokes on deck. And just remind them that it's okay to have fun. Yeah.
Thanks, Erin.
I get to take the wet blanket off of the party pooper hat for a second. Like, yeah, all the things we're talking about, that's like 5, 10, 15% of the journeys. Most of the journeys are incredibly beautiful, like life-changing and awe and hilarious, and just like, oh, the stress is gone. The connection is back. Hell yes. Yeah. And we do try to plan for that in curation. So get out your bubble wands, get out the marker, get out the things that light them up. Go for it. Absolutely.
Thanks, Melanie.
Yeah, I really enjoy encouraging laughter. I bring a sense of humor into my preparation sessions, appropriately, of course. And when a client is, giggling or laughing during the experience, encourage that. I laugh with them. I'm meeting them there. We're just having fun, laughing together at the absurdity of the situation. And we also have, toys and games at the service center that I work at. And I do just feel that bringing fun and also letting the client know that there's no wrong way to do this and kind of relieve some of that pressure so that they can let go, they can, have fun, they can feel comfortable laughing and being, who they are in the moment. And like I said before, the mushroom has a way of making it fun and silly already. And so just embracing that and kind of encouraging it when the time is right.
I just want to add one last thing. One thing I really like sharing with people is pointing out the fact that, this is about catharsis. It's about release of energy. And one thing that I find is remarkable, that the mechanism of deep, deep, ugly crying, like, it looks almost the same as laughing. Our bodies expel, release with our voice, with our tears. And if you're laughing real hard, it looks the same as really ugly crying. And I learned that the hard way when somebody was just losing their mind, crying their face off, and I thought they were in deep despair. And I was like, I got to help this person. And I was in there and I was like, how are you doing? And they're like, don't bother me. I'm in so much joy right now. And it looks exactly the same. So just watch, watch yourself. Watch yourself. What's that? Wait. Why am I talking? Why am I touching? Just wait and see what happens for them. And that reminder, it's all the same.
Yeah, beautiful. I
And
know I've
it's
had
funny
that
just to say
experience
it.
many, many times. Deep sobbing into hysterical laughter, and it's the same vibe. So I'm going to use our last couple minutes and then the Q&A. I want to try to get to more than one audience question. This is a really practical question that I think is really important for people who are considering getting into this work to see just the reality of how this looks right now. And the question, I'm just going to read it word for word here. Can someone make a living as a facilitator, or do you all have a day job?
Ooh, I'll start. So I am so fortunate to be a full-time facilitator at LifeTrek in Albany. I am, I think, one of the only people who has that privilege, and so many people that I've met have other businesses that they work with. But I have health insurance, and I find that I am so happy to be successfully operating in a space in a full-time manner with health insurance, with stability. That just feels really, really good. And I hope that other service centers can kind of employ that same measure to really support their facilitators. And I'm not a fan of the contract work myself, but yeah, I can do it full time, and it's great, and I'm happy to be here.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah. I'm going to give you a snapshot from a lot of different psilocybin facilitators that I work with and stories that I hear. Probably not in the first 6 to 9 months without significant support from family or job or whatever. Is it possible? Yeah, I think the ones that are the busiest are doing maybe a couple sessions a week plus a couple preps and a couple integrations. That seems to be what's standard, but I think they are concerned legitimately, like more people keep graduating. Will the market be flooded? We don't know. So.
What was the question again? I did that thing. I was gone.
Is this your full-time job, or do you have a day job too?
Right. Yeah, I want to say to people out there who haven't been able to find their way in the world and are definitely alternative thinking, and they look at this and they see the dollar signs in your eyes, check yourself. Slow down and check yourself, because it's way harder than you think it is. It's way more energetically taxing than you think it is. And if you think you're going to pay all your bills right away, 6 to 9 months, I would say more like a year or two. Give yourself time to figure out how it's going to impact you to sit there and hold that psychic energy for someone. Hopefully you're not trying to hold it, but letting it flow through you. But yeah, slow down, have a job. Please have a job and have your bills paid. Because that's even worse, because then there's a bottleneck of taking clients that maybe you're not sure about, and you need the money. So you're like, yeah, I'll do it with you. Very bad, very high potential for harm. Please don't do that. Yeah, have a job. Get a job first, then do the second.
Melanie, you looked like you wanted to maybe say something more.
No, I think that was good. There was like a finger waggle, and I was just appreciating that.
This is a really serious one. Just the finger.
Awesome. So our next question from the audience that people are really interested in hearing your thoughts on, what are the differences in the strengths and the challenges when we think about individual sessions or group sessions? We know that in 109 we can do both, and there's a lot of differences between them. So thoughts on pros and cons?
I've held a couple group sessions, and they have been absolutely wonderful. That sense of camaraderie and holding the space for each other is a new thing for a lot of people, and to kind of put them in that space to, if someone's having a challenging experience, to bring their vibes and just think and help support that person in this container, I think is so impactful for these people. But of course the risks are someone taking you out of the experience, or someone having a violent experience and pulling everybody out. But I think that the sense of camaraderie is amazing, and I really hope to focus more on that in the future.
Thanks, Patrick.
Yeah. Not everyone's built for group journey, and I think part of your prep is just being like, yeah, group journey might be more affordable. Let's look at that. And then, but also, right, setting group intention, and there are like practices we're all trained in of how to do that. I would say common pitfalls or that people complain to me about are like lots of really hyperverbal people all in the same group, and one person who's like, I just need quiet. And for those people who are like on the fence or on the edge, maybe encouraging them, like, maybe you should curate your own group, bring your own people. That might be a better option for you. And then what was the question about individual?
Individual versus group, challenges, strengths, your thought on the difference between the two.
Yeah, I think in the group journey space, really knowing your co-facilitator well, like you can look across the room and be like, oh, you're not comfortable, I need to key into this, or you got your hands full and I gotta watch this, like just those nonverbal things that you work on, and that's, you just have to like do a few to figure it out and know each other. Yeah.
This is a rough one. I like this question, but so echoing what you said, some people aren't built for group space. In my opinion, it's best to have someone do enough individual journeys that they learn, one, that they're fucking awesome, excuse me, and how to ask for help. Because a lot of people in group journeys aren't able to ask for help. They don't think enough of themselves that they deserve help. And if you're not able to ask for help in the group space, you're not going to get it. So those people fall through the cracks. So you have to be very mindful of that. So I think people should do 3 or 4 individual journeys before going into group space personally. And the group space is fantastic. It really is. It's a different animal. But I think scaffolding people with those things, self-love and being able to ask for help, is super important. And until someone can do that, I don't know that they're going to thrive in that space unless they're just really confident already.
So my last question for each of you is, if you could give advice to your younger self who started out on this path, what would you tell them?
I just got asked this question by Andrew Penn the other day. Someone got the same answer. Sorry, pre-canned, ready to go. Get real comfortable with ambiguity. It is gray area in there. There's going to be dilemmas that come up. Like, I have patients that I prescribe for all the time who come to me and like, oh, you're licensed now. I want to have a journey with you. And like, oh, what is that? What do we do with those, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's all going to be gray area. Except for the touching part.
Patrick?
For me, I think it was just this kind of stark change from a very stable career in the food industry to then something that's much, much less stable, and dealing with like scheduling and different hours and Being very emotionally available at 8 a.m. can be challenging sometimes. I don't know what advice I'd give to myself, but just kind of a general think about this before you hop into this experience.
I would ask someone what their relationship like with expectations are, and see if they're attached to them actually helping that person, and if they're okay actually making that person's life way more difficult for the next 3 or 4 years, or maybe 10. So if you're comfortable with that, because we don't really know what's going to happen, and it might get worse before it gets better.
Thank you all for sharing your wisdom, being vulnerable, and your experience. I know I've learned a lot. Join me in thanking them.
Thanks, Emma.
You're welcome.